The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. What a distressing contrast there is between the radiant intelligence of the child and the feeble mentality of the average adult. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. Religion is an illusion, and it derives its strength from the fact that it falls in with our instinctual desires. Just as a cautious businessman avoids investing all his capital in one concern, so wisdom would probably admonish us also not to anticipate all our happiness from one quarter alone. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun and falling back into the great subterranean pool of subconscious from which it rises. Civilized society is perpetually menaced with disintegration through this primary hostility of men towards one another. The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is what does a woman want? It is impossible to overlook the extent to which civilization is built upon a renunciation of instinct. I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. Men are strong so long as they represent a strong idea. They become powerless when they oppose it. America is the most grandiose experiment the world has seen, but I am afraid it is not going to be a success. If youth knew, if age could. The psychical, whatever its nature may be, is itself unconscious. The first human who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. America is a mistake, a giant mistake. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source and prototype of the affect of anxiety. Illusions commend themselves to us because they save us pain and allow us to enjoy pleasure instead. We must therefore accept it without complaint when they sometimes collide with a bit of reality against which they are dashed to pieces. Every normal person, in fact, is only normal on the average. His ego approximates to that of the psychotic, in some part or other and to a greater or lesser extent. What progress we are making! In the Middle Ages they would have burned me. Now they are content with burning my books. We may insist as often as we like that man's intellect is powerless in comparison to his instinctual life, and we may be right in this. Nevertheless, there is something peculiar about this weakness. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it will not rest until it has gained a hearing. Finally, after a countless succession of rebuffs, it succeeds. My love is something valuable to me which I ought not to throw away without reflection. The madman is a dreamer awake. The ego is not master in its own house. Public self is a conditioned construct of the inner psychological self. Where idea was, there ego shall be. A woman should soften, but not weaken a man. Great decisions in the realm of thought and momentous discoveries and solutions of problems are only possible to an individual working in solitude. The dream is the liberation of the spirit from the pressure of external nature, a detachment of the soul from the fetters of matter. No one who, like me, conjures up the most evil of those half-tamed demons that inhabit the human breast, and seeks to wrestle with them, can expect to come through the struggle unscathed. How bold one gets when one is sure of being loved. We are what we are, because we have been what we have been. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. A certain degree of neurosis is of inestimable value as a drive, especially to a psychologist. From error to error, one discovers the entire truth. Neurosis is no excuse for bad manners. If children could, if adults knew. Opposition is not necessarily enmity, it is merely misused and made an occasion for enmity. A man who has been the indisputable favorite of his mother keeps for life the feeling of a conqueror.